We're just going to get the nonsense out of the way right now, and we're going to talk about the fact that my internet is working for now. Thank you to the dude that, and I'm going to tell a quick story when we get to sort of the what you've been watching, playing, listening to thing. But suffice it to say, Spectrum Internet, thank you for actually doing what I pay you to do, and that is give me gigabit internet up and symmetrical up and down speeds. Welcome to the Roundtable. I am Chino Mage, and we're surrounded by people and synth waves and a number of people in the chat, and this dude streaming New World and not talking just so he can tune into the Roundtable at Susie Live. The legend is here himself. Nav in the chat, of course. And Nav, hello. Happy spooky season, I guess is what we can say here. Question of the day as we jump into the Roundtable. First and foremost, are you dressing up for Halloween this year? And secondly, we're going to get the easy question out of the way. What is your top Halloween candy?
Who's going first?
You, Nav.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I must have ripped my headphones out for a second. Sorry. Yes, I was doing something. My headphones just like flew out. Like, oh, great. Okay, finally back. This happens. Okay, yes, I am dressing up for Halloween. If you want to see what I am dressed up as, go check it out in the Lux Discord. And she should be part of Lux Discord. It's awesome anyway. But go check it out. And it's in the costume contest section. And so. And I'm an astronaut, and I'm wearing an Occupy Mars shirt underneath it, and you'll see it like this because it's just with Elon Musk, all the stuff happening with him, I feel like is appropriate. So I don't know how you all feel about it, but I find him a very interesting character.
I agree, and I'm interested to see what Twitter is going to look like in the next 12 to 18 months. As a big Twitter user, I'm fearful for the platform. All the way coming from the northern reaches of this hemisphere, Templar 10 and Templar, again, happy spooky season. Number one, are you dressing up? And number two, what's the Halloween candy? Nav, we didn't get to the Halloween candy. We'll get back to you. Templar, what's your answer the questions in order? Go.
Am I dressing up? No, I won't be dressing up this year. I don't really have I don't have any kind of costume really to go with. Favorite Halloween candy? I just tend to like the kind of mixed of the like mini chocolate bars. I mean, obviously getting like a full size chocolate bar is the best, but that's pretty rare. I always like Three Musketeers a lot. I don't know. Maybe that's controversial, but I kind of like those.
I don't get why it's controversial. I've heard that opinion on the internet that it is controversial, and I always go like, it's light and fluffy. How can that be controversial? And if you put them in the freezer, they're awesome. Yeah, like they have like a good outer crunch to them. Yeah, I get it. I understand all about this.
That is good.
Yeah. Now I
haven't done that in years. Jeez, that's a throwback.
There you go. So you go trick-or-treating, dress up as that Batman thing that was in the costume contest channel, and then go steal all the candy, specifically all the Three Musketeers, throw them in the freezer. Bob's your uncle. You guys don't celebrate our Thanksgiving, but happy Thanksgiving to you. And Nav, give me your candy choice.
Reese's.
Which kind of Reese's? Simple. Like cups, the mini ones, the big regular ones, pieces?
You said like, I guess technically it's not a chocolate bar, but.
I think the internet baminated him for selecting Reese's. Oh, you're back.
Bro. I'm back. Okay. I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm sorry.
Listen, it's not my internet this time. I've got everything pulled up and I'm looking at my average throughput. It looks amazing right now. Okay, before we get to you, Mark TheLift, we got a number of people in the chat. Salty saying that the Reese's Pieces are the best. It's a solid second to peanut M&Ms. Like I said, Susie in the chat, Bootstraps in the chat, Bougie in the chat. Who does I see? Zeph's in the chat as well. Who else are we missing here? So question of the day, dressing up as Dane. Favorite candy, 100 grand bar, says Bootstraps. Only on Halloween, though, specifically. Dressing
up as like a Dane, like a Great Dane?
Or like Dane Cook.
Like Like, Dane Cook,
maybe,
sure. Yeah,
maybe.
There's a throwback.
Although he just put out a new album, so I haven't listened to it. I've heard it's very vulgar.
Dane Cook was a thing and was like around.
Oh yeah, and then he became controversial.
I was playing EverQuest 1
and stuff.
Yeah, he's got a new one, and yeah, here it is. Bougie says, I like Nerds or Skittles for Halloween candy, also good. Paydays also slap. Salty, you can see yourself out. And Katie says Starburst. I agree. Yeah, keep Spectrum Internet, fix the Nabs Internet too, says Bougie. Absolutely. I can call him. I got a guy. I gave him
my internet.
Yeah, I got a guy. I'll tell you the story in a minute. All the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, coming off about 2 minutes of sleep over the last 2 weeks. Pastor Mark, TheLift himself, and your questions. I mean, we kind of already saw Wednesday night your costume, but are you dressing up when you go out with the girls? If you go out with the girls, and what's your Halloween candy of choice?
Hey, I got more sleep than that. I did get some sleep on the hospital couch. Let me tell you how comfortable that is. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Everybody spend a night. Yeah, everyone spent a couple of nights on a hotel couch. Let me tell you, this the best part is the pillows that are made out of a substance that is sanitary, which makes them awful to touch your face with. So just plan on wearing a hoodie and pull it up over your face so that your face never touches the pillow, and you'll be totally safe. I'm not dressing up as anything but Murray from Stranger Things season 4. I dressed up as him this weekend. It was disturbing how well I looked, actually. I was like, I'm not going to look like Murray. I'm way too thin to be Murray. And then you pulled it off. I looked at the VOD, and as it turns out, not too thin. Not too thin. Actually fill out Murray pretty well. As it turns out, I was actually looking in like the shot that like the clip or whatever that Twitch pulled to promote to the Discord, like the angle that I'm like lounging at on the couch and like the outfit that Greg had on. It was uncanny. It was like we looked so much like Murray and Eddie. It was pretty uncanny. And my favorite Halloween candy, it's like, that's a hard question to answer. I feel like I'm kind of like, I'm a Reese's all year type of guy. Like I'm not like really any time of the year. If I had to choose a candy, it's almost always and exclusively going to be Reese's. But as a kid, Nerds, like the only time I got Nerds was Halloween, and my wife and I both like a box of Nerds once a year. And Three Musketeers are bad, so you're wrong, Templar. But usually I have to comment first, and then you can flame me. This time you commented, and I can flame you.
Sure,
yeah, and I'm also big. Like I'm big on gummy candies. What did he say? Because I didn't hear it.
So we got to switch things up every now and again. Got to switch it up.
Yes, yeah, we got to switch it up. I'll be back. Had to reset my router. Navalis is unplugging and plugging every device in his house
frantically.
So yeah, every lamp counts down to 10, plugs back in. Then he runs to the next thing, count to 10. Yep. Oven unplugged, count to 10, plug it back in. Yep. Until he gets back.
Yep. So I love this. I also love dude St. Bear in the chat, and he is now flaming Mark and says, "Dude who says Reese's?" I agree. It's Reese's. But also he's from Pittsburgh, and so he can't be trusted.
Yeah, but hold up. I live in the state where Hershey is. So if there's a person who gets to pronounce the name of candies that come from the factory correctly, it's this guy. Okay, I've been to the chocolate factory. I've walked around it. I've been to Hershey Park. None of y'all been to those places.
How do they pronounce it at Hershey Park?
The Reese's. Just like I do it. That's what they say. They say, "Hey, welcome to the Reese's coaster," or the actually, if Reese's were going to be like a theme park ride, they would definitely be like the teacup ride that you just spin in a circle until you vomit, like 100%. Right?
Oh yeah, agreed.
Yeah, like you would sit inside of one, and then you would just spin until you throw up.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. St. Bear also says that's not how language works, and 0% chance they've ever said Reese's ever. I mean, we can talk about dialects later. I'm all good. Zeph says you can smell the chocolate 10 miles away from the factory. I'm sure that's great for the first 5 days. And then after that, you're just tired of chocolate. Yeah, good times. I'm Chino Mage. I'm actually dressing up. My wife bought these like blow up dinosaur costumes. And so I'm actually dressing up as a dude who's riding around on a raptor, which is pretty awesome. It's literally got like a fan and it like ties around your waist and then it blows up. And so I've got this like little thing and I get to ride around on a raptor. And yeah, the interesting thing about the chocolate thing is that I'm a peanut M&Ms all year round guy, and it's still my favorite Halloween candy. My kids pay what's called a dad tax at the end of the year or at the end of Halloween, where they dump all their stuff out, and at least half of their peanut M&Ms go to me, if not more. And they actually have we've been doing this a long time. They literally just like automatically separate all the ones out. And occasionally I'll be like benevolent and I'll toss them, one package back. But there's always a constant supply of peanut M&Ms in the house. So they're never in want. So there we go. M&M with pretzels are perfection, says Katie. Absolutely. Those are fantastic. Also the M&Ms with, I don't know if you guys have had these, the crunchy M&Ms. They're like rice, or how are they? They're like, you ever have Crackle bars or like Nestle Crunch bars?
Crackle bars are great. Yeah.
And so it's like that, but with that M&M shell. It is amazing.
Just really quickly here, I just want to point out that Saint Bear says the word tour. He says tour, and he is insistent that it's the right way to say it. And every person I've ever spoke to that I know of says that he's wrong. So it's not said tour, it's said tour. And so you're wrong about Reese's and you're wrong about tour, just to be very, very clear. And welcome in, honey. My wife is here. I love you. And Baggy Man, how are you? Good to see you.
We also love him too. We're going to make a kind of a turn. So the Roundtable is ostensibly a show about nerd culture. There's Nav calling back in about nerd culture, about things happening in nerd life. Hey, Nav, welcome back. Hopefully your internet is not turning into Florida. I know you're not in Florida, but congratulations. I shipped some of my internet off to you. So the Roundtable, I never really got to talk about what the show is. We talk about nerd stuff. Sometimes we talk about really serious topics. Today, we're not going to talk about really serious topics. We're going to talk about the Rings of Power. We're going to have a postmortem on the Rings of Power coming up in just a little bit. Before we get there, however, we're also going to talk a little bit about the things that we've been watching, playing, and consuming in nerd culture. And Templar, since you're not looking at me in the camera, we're going to start with you. This is like a teacher. Like when you're not looking at the teacher calls on you. So Templar, what have you been playing, watching, consuming in nerd culture over the last couple of weeks?
Is he muted?
I think you muted yourself, bro.
You're muted still. Can't hear.
All right, Nav, we're gonna move to new Nav. And what have you been watching, playing, listening to in nerd culture? You're unmuted now, Templar.
Can you hear me fine right now?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay. My internet's still messing up, so even restarted, ran speed test. It's not where it should be, so I apologize.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, mint M&Ms, get out of here. Can we ban Beggy Man in the chat?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Mint chocolate's great, so I'm not opposed to that idea.
Oh. All right, Nav, hit me with what you watching, playing, listening to.
Because my last couple of weeks have been crazy because of family stuff and everything. Been playing a lot of the Steam Deck. There you go. There's my shameless plug again. And so I beat Trails in the Sky, the second chapter.
Solid. And his internet went Florida again.
Plethora of games to a backlog I'm looking at right now. So I started Missiles of Arise. I've heard good things about that on Steam Deck. 8 frames per second, good stuff. Then I've been watching Parks and Recreation. That's pretty much what I'm doing. So there you go.
Fantastic show. One of the top 5 best shows ever created. Templar, now that you're unmuted, what have you been watching, playing, listening to, all those things in nerd culture?
So in terms of what I've been playing, I've actually been playing a decent amount of Overwatch 2, which is somewhat surprising because I didn't really play the first one. I played a few games here and there, but I've actually been playing a decent amount of Overwatch 2, and I've been having some fun with it. Whether I'll like stick with it and play competitive or anything like that, I don't know. But I mean, the game's free, so whatever. I'm not interested in buying any skins or anything for it. So for like no cost to me, I'll give it a shot. Beyond that, I've been playing. I downloaded Hearts of Iron 4 again, so I was playing a little bit of that. And then In terms of what I've been watching, I've been looking for some sort of, I'm not big on horror, but like zombie stuff. I do like zombie movies and that, which I've talked about before. So I rewatched 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later recently, and I forgot how low budget 28 Days Later, but it's very well it's very well done. Like, it's such a good movie, and I forgot it was Cillian Murphy, honestly. So that was probably my like introduction to him. But yeah, it's great. It's very well done. Even the sequel, which isn't as good, I forgot it had Jeremy Renner in it as well. Is great. They're awesome zombie movies. Well, it's not technically zombies, but it's essentially a zombie movie. So yeah, I've been watching that, or I watched those, and then I've been keeping up with Andor, which we're going to be talking about another time. But spoilers, I've been largely enjoying that myself there, and then I've been keeping up with the League World Championship. So I watched some of the group stage, and then I've watched a few of the quarterfinals, and then the semifinals, I believe, start today. I think the first one's today. So
yeah, Friday. Yeah.
I might check that out. So yeah, that's about it.
Is Fnatic still in, or are they eliminated? Do they get eliminated in groups?
I don't believe they made it out of groups. They did not. The only Western team that made it out of groups was Rogue from Europe, and they got 3-0'd in the quarterfinals. So there are no Western European or North American teams still in.
Way to go, guys.
Not that that's shocking, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's catch up in the chat real quick before we get back. So there's been a lot going on, especially with M&Ms and pretzels and all that. So I'm going to let you guys keep your wrong opinions about why everything except peanut M&Ms are great.
Saint Bear, I think you actually might be right. Did I say Cillian Murphy?
You did say Cillian.
I think it is Cillian, maybe.
I always thought it was Cillian.
I don't know. He did one of those like retrospective videos on YouTube where he like goes over his major performances. He probably said on there.
Okay. St. Bear says, no, it's a hard C for sure. I just Googled it. All right. You were right.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Run with that. Bootstraps just got out of here. So we said goodbye to him a little. And Salty. Well, first of all, Beggy Man is getting flamed for drinking chocolate milk, or not drinking chocolate milk, which is great. And we're going to ban him in a little bit. And then poor Beggy Man, they just don't get it. I mean, M&Ms aren't that bad. Yes, they are. Salty with the comment of the day so far, 3.5 or 3-ish years, and all we got was like 3 new heroes and a couple of maps for Overwatch. So like, Templar, who are you maining right now?
To be honest, I've been playing mostly arcade.
Okay.
And I was playing a mode where it gives you a random champion every time you die. And I did that mostly just so it would kind of force me to play a bunch of different stuff to try to like learn some different champions and what they do. Beyond that, I tend to play support. Like when I actually choose a role, I've been tending to play Moira. For those who know Overwatch, I guess I've been playing Moira, and when I play tank, I play Roadhog. Yeah,
Roadhog is the best. Yes, banned for days. We're calling his bluff. Absolutely. All right. So, Mark, you haven't had a whole lot of time back at your desk over the last couple of weeks. We'll talk about that in a little bit. What have you been playing, watching, consuming in nerd culture?
It's really only been one thing. I have kept up more with Destiny than I expected, but I haven't had nearly as much time with my PC for 3 weeks for family things and all sorts of stuff, Megazord. But what I did do was Marvel Snap came out a little over a week ago, and so I have been heavily snapping, a lot of snapping going on. When I have been able to stream, which has only been like 2 times the past couple of weeks, I've been snapping on stream. I'm snapping in bed at night. I snap when I wake up in the morning.
Ew.
I'm just I wake up and snap. I snap in my dreams. Basically, Chad, if there's an opportunity to snap, you can bet that Pastor Mark is snapping. So yes. So I'm just constantly snapping. I'm almost done with the season pass, like Salty is. I have reached collection level 350, almost 360. And I have a couple of quests on there right now that I wish that I was doing. Not that I don't want to be with you guys, but I do like finishing my quests and upgrading my cards. So yeah, no, really enjoying Marvel Snap more than I thought I would when I first got into it. I was like, this isn't really a card game, and to be fair, it's not going to scratch the Magic the Gathering itch, right? There's not that much depth to it, but there is a ton of depth to it. And it's actually very similar to a tabletop game that I enjoy that's frequently too long in the tooth called Smash Up, where you get two factions of different leprechauns and ponies, or like robots and zombies, and you compete to win locations with the most influence on those locations. The problem is that the game takes hours and hours. It's way too long, very similar to like some of the first sort of hobbyist games that became popular, like Munchkin. It just takes way too long. And Marvel Snap's like 3 minutes, 4 minutes a game, and I really enjoy that about it. And there's way more depth than what you think when you first look at it. And I've been hooked, man. I've been really hooked on Marvel Snap. So I don't know what we're going to do because I've deleted Legends of Runeterra from my phone, and now I have Marvel Snap on it. But yet I am supposed to do a podcast for Legends of Runeterra. So
fake it.
Hey, got a question. What deck you been playing, or what you been trying out?
I've been combining, I've been doing two decks. One is an ongoing deck, which basically is a ton of ongoing stuff with Spectrum at the top end. And the other one I've been playing has been a movement deck, which is running like multiple men, Vulture, Doctor Strange, and a handful of other cards that can move my stuff around with Heimdall. I don't know, the guy with the sword from Thor's world at the top end of that one. And I honestly think, depending on the location changes, like the one that's up a lot more often. And so the one that was most recent multiplied the guys that you played on a location. For that one, Spectrum was way better than the movement deck. But generally speaking, at least where I am in Platinum and in like the section 2 of the collection unlocking, the movement deck is king. It's very strong. So I've been using that a lot.
Salty is playing a zoo deck.
I'll have to send you.
I'm working towards a zoo deck as well, Salty. It looks like the most fun.
Yeah, I'm playing a token ongoing deck. I'll have to send you the list.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Cool. Anything else, Mark?
No, I haven't really had time to consume or do anything else for nerd culture the past couple of weeks. It's like I needed something I could play on my phone at the hospital, and so snapping is what I've been doing.
Are you the type of dude that snaps right on turn 1? Are you one of those guys?
No. I'm not that dude. I'm actually the type of dude who frequently forgets to snap throughout the game because I'm so focused on winning.
Cool. I've been over the last, like today in particular, somebody posted an article about it on Kotaku, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And I've been snapping on turn 1, and people have been leaving. Like if I snap on turn 1, they'll leave by like turn 2 or turn 3 if they haven't won anything yet. It's pretty awesome. So highly recommended that you try to bluff people with snapping and just feeling confident. I'm going to go. Boozy says, I've been playing a small combo deck. Yeah, we need to. There's actually a site somewhere that you can share all your decks, right? You can export them.
You can actually copy your deck list straight from the app and then just post it from your clipboard if you want. So yeah, we should open that somewhere in our Discord because I'd love to see some of these things. And they're frequently changing. And I feel like even with some of the mission stuff and some of the new areas, everything's changing. Like, what was the one that we were just talking about in the Megazord Discord? It was the Bar something or other, Bar Sinister. Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
That Bar Sinister really screwed me up the first time I saw it because I was like, I don't know, I'm going to play all the Hulks. And then that was not the way to play it because then I was just getting torn up. And so then, you start to strategize a little bit. It's pretty dope. So I'm going to go and I've been playing my stream deck a lot. So when we went to Megazord, I eked out a solid hour and 45 minutes on the plane of Cyberpunk both ways. And I say solid because I went from 100% battery down to 20% battery in those hour and 45 minutes. But I was playing a AAA game on the plane at 40 frames per second because you can't really do it at 60. I mean, you can, but your battery would have just been eaten at 40 FPS with high set. And I kind of hacked my Steam Deck a little bit. So I put a bigger hard drive in there. So now I have a 512 gigabyte SSD along with a 1 terabyte micro SD card. So that's where all my retro stuff lives, is right on the micro SD. Because you don't need the load speed. You need it for some of the actual games. And then I went into the... I basically created a big swap file. And so, Nav, I can teach you how to do this if you want. Instead of... Because your Steam Deck only has 16 gigs of RAM, but it only has 1 gig of graphic RAM, like on board as part of the APU. But you can actually go into the BIOS of the Steam Deck and up that. So drop down your RAM to 12 gigs of RAM, and then use your RAM as swap memory. And so it effectively quadruples your GPU. I know a bunch of people are shutting down, and I'll be done talking about this, but it's amazing. Like, I have not had a hitch in any game I've played. It's fantastic.
All right, we need to talk later. Like, message me.
I'll send you all the instructions and stuff like that. Like, I found some dude that was doing it, and it's like, well, I kind of had to redo some of the things. So I've been obviously just tooling around on Cyberpunk and then on The Witcher. I picked up Chrono Trigger again because it's like one of my all-time favorite games, and it's just good to play on the Steam Deck. And then on Monday evening / Tuesday, a little game called Victoria 3 came out, and I'm a huge strategy game nerd. And Vicky 3 is like, it's right in those like Crusader Kings, Europa Universe. It's a Paradox game. So it's like 1,000,000 hours to learn. It's like, Hearts of Iron, Paradox game. Hearts of Iron is like, whereas Hoy is mostly war focused, Vicky is mostly economy focused. There is war elements in there. Oh my gosh. I'm going to lose so many hours of my life playing this game. Just because like it's insane. And anytime Paradox releases any game, like, goodbye world for a little bit. So I'm going to be streaming some of that if anybody wants to come nerd out on strategy games, which none of you do, but that's fine. I'm going to stream it and we're going to have a good time with it. Other than that, I finished up Rings of Power, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Spoiler, I was kind of disappointed. But there we go. There's that. And I've been having a good time playing Destiny with my son. So there we go. Before we do anything, however, Salty says, I literally just started a snap match, snapped on turn 1, opponent conceded. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. Do it. Templar, how do you feel about Snap? Have you played it yet?
No, I'm good.
Okay. 3 words and he's done.
Nah, I'm good, he says. It's good.
I'm good.
Did you? Yeah, I mean, you play Magic and stuff, right?
I play Runeterra. I still play a bit of Runeterra, like the Path of Champions stuff. Yeah. But that's the only card game I've ever really been into.
So, Mark, what's the difference between Snap and Runeterra?
Oh, they're completely different games. I mean, they're both card based, but they're not similar. Runeterra is a much more akin to Magic the Gathering, and this game is far, far more akin to tabletop games like Smash Up or mobile games without sort of the mobile game like paywalls that you would typically associate with mobile games. So.
Okay,
I would love a physical version of Marvel Snap. If there could be a physical version, that'd be sick. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. So
there was a lot of people talking about that.
Nav, I lost my headphones. The thing is, Nav, there is a physical version of Marvel Snap. It's called Smash Up, and you can buy it at your local board game shop. So it's literally the same game. Basically,
I'll message you later. We'll talk.
It's basically the same game. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we're going to turn our attention now to something we've talked about a couple of weeks ago, and we had only been through the first 4 episodes, I believe, maybe the first 5 episodes of the Rings of Power. And going forward, Nav has notes. I like that.
Wow.
I love it. This is great, Nav. Nav is doing some homework, buddy. So before we go any further, I'm assuming here there be spoilers. So just be warned. We're going to spoil the snot out of it. If you want to if you want to lurk, please do and keep our stream total up. Thumbs up to you that do that. And then come back in a little bit when we talk about Megazord and talk about Christian Twitch streaming, because that's going to be fun. But I'm going to open up the floor and we're going to talk about Rings of Power, and we're going to do a postmortem. Typically in postmortems, what you do is you pro and con it, but also you give general impressions. You pick out some of the bits of the story and then you leave it there. So we're just going to have a roundabout discussion about it. Who wants to start?
I'll read my list here. Okay. It'll be short and sweet and everything. So here we go. The 6 points of why this show is good.
You're like a 5-point Calvinist right here. I like this.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to go 5 points because me and Calvin. No, I say okay. And so there actually is a thing of a 6-point Calvinist and a 7-point Calvinist, but that's a whole different discussion for a different time. Okay. Just Google John Piper and 6-point Calvinist. But anyway, okay, there we go. First point, why the show is good. The production values are really good. And so, we talked about that. The production values are really, really good. It's movie quality. I'll admit that. It's movie quality. Nothing felt cheap in it, which is nice. There's, compared to Wheel of Time, there's like a night and day difference in production values, okay? And so Wheel of Time felt cheap. It felt like almost like a sci-fi show, like sci-fi, how they skip on things. Anyway, production values are awesome. From the cities, when they went to Numenor, that was just like, wow, like I want to visit there type thing, like let me sail into the port and walk around. And I need like a VR of that, just give me a VR and just let me walk around the city. That'd be so great. Okay. Number 2, the musical score is really good, I think. And so the music, the soundtrack, I could get into it. Okay. So
one thing I did notice as I was watching, there's actually, it's called a leitmotif. There's actually leitmotifs of the Mount Doom soundtrack, or the Mount Doom theme song, the Khazad-dûm thing when they're in the mines, and then the Shire / Gandalf music at the very end of everything, which I thought was fascinating. Keep going.
And one of the things is they did little things like that tied into The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, like music wise, but even some of the writing. Now, I'm going to say the writing is not on my list. Okay. I'm going to do that right now. The writing is not on my list, but some of the writing was good. Okay. This is honorable mention. I'm just going to go with this real quick. Spoiler, last episode, Galadriel and, what's his name?
Halbrand.
Halbrand. Okay. Halbrand. Sorry. Halbrand. The conversation between those two about like, I will make you a queen and all this stuff, like that whole conversation right there is actually almost word for word what Galadriel says to Frodo when Frodo offers her rings. And I thought that was a cool tie-in. Okay. That was like, I will make you queen, not, like beautiful and terrible, striking it, it's kind of like almost word for word. And I thought that was really cool to tie that in. It's like, I've heard that before. And there's a few other times they did that. And I think that was really kind of ingenious. And that's like a nice little tie-in. Anyway, I thought that was really cool. So that was number 2. The musical score is, I think it's epic. Okay, there we go. It's just like
my turn. Oh. Is it my turn now?
So epic that
it keeps this number 3 keeps. What was that?
You're good. You're back.
Okay. I'm sorry, my internet guys. If I cut out, type in chat for me and let me know, and I'll just stop talking. But so number.
Hit him in chat.
The spirit of Lord of the Rings alive. Am I cutting out? Oh my goodness.
Now you're back. You're back.
All right, I'm gonna stop talking. Those are my 2 points.
Is somebody using the microwave somewhere? Like is your Wi-Fi going down?
My Wi-Fi keeps jumping. Like I have the speed test, and it'll just be like I have fiber, okay, and I'm not getting fiber quality right now. All right, trust me. I'm about to call AT&T. I'm
going to tell you a quick story that I should have told during my thing. I was preaching at Lux 2 Wednesdays ago. So the Wednesday before Megazord. And my internet has been going Florida since the Hurricane Ian. What was that, 3 or 4 weeks ago? And for whatever reason, the dude showed up to fix the entire street literally half an hour before I was supposed to start preaching. So it was at like 8 o'clock our time. We were in our dream team meeting Everything was fine. All of a sudden, my internet died. And I walked outside and the dude was there with the Spectrum truck with his headlamp on, like fixing something. And I went like, hey, man, what's going on? And he's like, oh, we had a call to fix this and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, why are we doing it at 8 o'clock at night? He's like, well, I just gotta make sure I get my call. It's been really busy ever since the hurricane. Things have been broken. I said, that's awesome. I actually need to stream and I'm actually doing a preaching thing in like 20 minutes. Can you just turn my internet back on for a little bit? He goes, well, it doesn't really work like that. Like I gotta do this. And he's like showing me all this stuff. I said, I don't care. Like, can you just plug it back in? And he's like, yeah, all right. You seem, yeah, okay, cool. And so he like plugged a thing in and lo and behold, all he did was take one thing and plug it into another thing. And then I had network. And so I walked back in. Beggy Man says, have fun editing this. Thanks, dude. I walk back into my studio and everything's fine. Speed test is going great. And my wife had made pumpkin cookies, which were just homemade deliciousness. And I walked out and I gave him some cookies and I said, here, man, thank you so much for giving me internet back. So Nav, if you want me to, I've still got pumpkin cookies out there. I can FedEx them to you and you can call AT&T with them and get your internet back. You want to do that?
I would love that, but I'm going to be silent and let you guys go because my internet's fluctuating.
I'm so sorry, Nav. I'm so sorry. Also, Bougie just called me a confirmed bully.
I had this whole list, guys.
Do you want to send it to me via Discord and I can read some of it?
Yeah, I'm writing counterpoints, so you should send it.
Oh.
Okay. Can I just give my last thing? Like after those two, the rest of them were bogus because they were just to make Templar mad. And so.
Oh, okay. Good.
Now I wish we had them.
Okay, I'll read them off real quick if I'm good. Okay.
You're good.
I said the characters are great. Well, most of them. And then
sure.
I wrote, there's a great mystery that keeps you going throughout the whole season.
Great mystery. Good.
The ships of New Moor were awesome.
Great ships.
They put all those troops in there.
Great
and the
ships.
last point was, the reason you should like this show is because Templar dislikes it.
Oh, sure.
Oh, Nav is confirmed bully. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love you, Nav. I mean, I love you, Templar. But I just have to. I had to make a list.
We love you, Nav.
Nav said,
Thanks, Nav. I appreciate that.
I love myself.
I do love you. I'm making this list, and I was like, I got to make this for Templar. That was my thought process.
Sure. I appreciate your thought.
Mark, do you want to go now while Templar continues to jot his thoughts down?
Yeah. Let's talk Rings of Power real quick. So I didn't get to chime in because I was away on the first episode where we talked about Rings of Power, and I was pretty high on Rings of Power about 3 or 4 episodes in. That slowly but surely got dashed to. And this wasn't even I wasn't influenced by anybody. This was just me watching the show and genuinely getting significantly more dissatisfied with it each episode. And so, for me, the highlights are they spent a lot of money on it. Like that was pretty obvious. And the first couple of episodes feel very Lord of the Rings, right? It feels way more Lord of the Rings than The Hobbit ever felt Lord of the Rings. The first couple of episodes, in terms of its grandeur, in terms of its scope, in terms of the variety of characters. I love references to things that I know about Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm not a Silmarillion reader, so because I didn't read the Silmarillion, there was less stuff to tick me off in the first couple episodes. I realized if you were a really big Lord of the Rings lore buff, that there were things just in the first couple of episodes that sort of you were angry already. And I didn't have to have that experience because I don't know as much about Lord of the Rings as I know about the Star Wars world. And therefore, although I love Lord of the Rings, there wasn't as much for me to grow upset about. For me, the things that upset me in Lord of the Rings is honestly straying from physical effects and instead like going into just extreme use of special effects and in computer generated stuff. And so just the fact that there's so much of this show that was physical effects and not nearly as much that was like open, clear special effects scenes made this a lot nicer for me. I was disappointed with the music from the beginning. I agree. My wife posted in the chat. I agree with her. I think the music from Lord of the Rings, the first three, really do create that movie in those movies in a lot of ways. Like there's very, very good music. And the music in this wasn't as epic for me. I'm not saying it was horrible. It wasn't as epic. Now, there was a point in which the wheels began coming off for me. And I don't know exactly when it was, but when the wheels fully came off was the moment that an entire town was burnt to ashes by a volcano and a woman took it to the face and her hair didn't get singed. That was the point that the wheels really begun, it just came off. Another point that we're ending the roundtable and I was muted. Okay, we're not doing that now. We're back now. Am I not back?
That was weird. No, my stream deck just freaked out.
Okay, I'm back. The other point that was a big thing for me was the moment when we realized who Sauron was, but no one wants to explain why he was on a raft and swearing never go back to the place he wanted to rule. I mean, maybe we'll get an explanation for that in the future. That would be nice. But that was a bit discouraging for me. The other part where the wheels came off was slowly over time as you realize that Galadriel has the same face throughout everything that she does, except when she rides a horse with a sheer dress on. The moment she wears a see-through dress and rides a horse bareback, man, just pleasure city. However, if there's any other point in which she's doing anything at all, at any point, in any way, with anyone, anywhere, or anything, she's an entirely flat character. I was telling Templar earlier, it's like they casted her because she looked like an elf, and they casted Elrond because he doesn't look like an elf. But Elrond's great. So some of the redeemable qualities of the show I actually liked the Hobbit storyline. I know we're not calling them hobbits. I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine. I hate Slim Shady. I hate female Slim Shady. Hate her. And she could have not been in the show, and I would have been entirely fine. I did not. Redeemable qualities is where I'm at. I actually really like the actor who plays Elrond and the actor who plays the dwarf. And I liked all of that playing out. I didn't like the Elven King, but the Elrond and that whole dynamic I thought was very enjoyable. And I liked pretty much every scene the two of them were in. Doran, I think is his name. I think Doran was fantastic. I loved sort of like the mist-kept beard and the giant hair off the side of his head. I thought he was done really well.
And his wife too. Great. His wife was a great character.
His wife was a phenomenal character, really good. So the last two things that really derailed it for me is every cliffhanger where we thought someone was going to die, it was with a character that we already know cannot die. Like, stop pretending that you're killing characters that are in the next movies. Like, stop. Like, everybody knows that they're not dead. Everybody knows. So stop ending your episodes with like, did she die in a volcano? Is he stuck underneath of a burning building? Did she drown to death? Did she drown? Like, stop it. Like, we know that none of that happens. Like, there is zero suspense with that. I just don't understand it. The last thing is when Dumbledore learns how to talk all of a sudden. I cannot deal with that. I'm calling him Dumbledore. I realize that he's Gandalf, but like the beginning of the episode, he's like, friend, and like he's the dude from the Goonies. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, I think that we should travel across land and entreat with the Ents. Like, How? Why? Like 0% explanation? Is it because he consumes Slim Shady and her crew? Like, is that why? Like, tell me one reason that he can talk. Like, I just do not get it. Okay, so there's all of the things that I think about the show. So like beginning of the show, fine. Numenor, fine, liked it. I realized that the boats fit a legion of horses. I also realized they teleported across Middle Earth to the Southlands in 40 seconds.
Many times.
The time travel makes no sense in the show. The travel in general, one of the things that Lord of the Rings does so well is the entire 3 movies is just about traveling, right? The grandeur of travel is across Middle Earth is so iconic to the first 3. And in this, it is just, and really that's all The Hobbit is about, is travel. And the Hobbit movies are about stupid crap and not travel. And so for me, like, really slighting the concept of traveling vast distances did a great disservice and really pulled me out of the immersion of Lord of the Rings. And then some just very, very blatant, obvious, kind of like Leia underneath of a trench coat level writing towards the end was very difficult for me. So yeah, like it wasn't as bad as Leia under a trench coat at any point, but like, I just like, I cannot deal with you taking a volcano to the face. Like we've all seen images from Pompeii. We know what happens. Like, do not do that to me. So that's me. That's where I'm at on Lord of the Rings.
Before I pass it off to Templar, I agree with everything you guys have said. Nav actually chimed in the chat because his internet went off Florida. He said Amazon doesn't have the rights to use anything from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or the history of the Middle Earth, which is partly why the writing was weak. Beggy Man replied and said storytelling is a dead art, which I think that's a topic we should, like, this is an exclamation point remind me in 30 days thing, because I would love to talk about that. I would love to talk about storytelling in pop culture, storytelling in Christian circles, storytelling as teaching the Bible, but more than that, storytelling just in human consciousness, and why when we are faced with actual good storytelling, we don't know what to do with it. And I think we've been conditioned to, I'm not saying Rings of Power is good, by the way. What I'm saying is when we are confronted with a good story, a lot of times we just go, oh, that was cool. And then it gets critically acclaimed, and then popular culture hates it. See Arrested Development, see, things like that, again, that's a comedy, but good writing, nobody liked it. And it took us 20 years to actually like it. I'm going to chime in with one thing real quick at all the things I agree with. Very disappointed with pretty much most of it. I still don't know what purpose the elf served in the Southlands. I still don't know why he's there. Maybe that's going to appear. I don't know what the Bronwyn thing happened, but she was supposed to die like 3 times, and then Theo was supposed to die like 3 times, and they didn't. So I don't know what's going to happen there. The other, like, are we going to explain the sword key thing, the Keyblade? Are we going to explain that? So maybe that happens.
Better question. Are we going to explain why we passed around the Keyblade and a trained elf didn't realize it was a hatchet?
Yeah, like, and she actually wiped her sword off on the hatchet. Like, what happened with that? Are we going to? I don't ever remember the elven rings having diamonds on or stones on them. Maybe that was just me. Maybe something happens to the stones. I don't know. That may be just a little thing. But the biggest freaking thing of all, and Mark, you hit on it, was the time travel mechanics. There's a volcano that opens up. People die. And all of a sudden we're back at, that we spend 15 minutes traveling through forest and ash and red and mist. And then all of a sudden it's bright and sunny and we're on boats. And then 5 minutes later, we're back where the elves are living. How does that work? But nobody else is back. Like, they still haven't boarded the ships to leave. Like, I guess I didn't understand all of that. Obviously the ships, the fact that they're like Noah's Ark levels of storage for holding 300 horses and 300 men over 5 ships. Like, that's fantastic. Even though those boats don't look that big.
Yeah, if you saw the diagram I sent on Discord, you would understand how that's possible.
Yeah, it feels like Noah's Ark. It might as well be a T-Rex in there as far as I'm concerned. And all of that could have been forgiven if they had come to some sort of closure of the first season that wasn't just like a weak fart after Mexican. And instead, it was just kind of like, and that was it. And so here we are. So all that being said, Templar, give me your postmortem on the Rings of Power season 1. Amazon Prime presents The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power season 1.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for giving the proper title there.
Yeah, I didn't want to get sued. We're on Twitch, as of course.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. Postmortem. Well, I guess I'll start with positives. So some things that I thought were good in it was I liked the relationship between Durin and Elrond. I thought their banter was pretty funny. I also liked some of the set design in that. Like, I think the mines, like the Dwarven settlement, I think was pretty cool looking. I think the Elven cities looked pretty good. I think Numenor looked pretty good. Although I wouldn't universally praise the production design or like special effects. I think for a show they spent $1 billion on, there's a lot of underwhelming stuff in it. Like the ships, for one example, like that don't make any sense. Why are you cutting corners with this stuff? I don't get it. Also, like, why is there no epic battles at all? Like, Numenor is supposed to send anyway, positives. So some of the production design is good. Some of the performances I think are solid. Again, mainly Durin and Elrond, and Durin's wife also was good. I liked the music for the most part, even though I do have some issues with the music. I guess that's it for positives. So negatives, to stay on the same theme, I think there were some things that looked kind of cheap. Like some of the CGI didn't look great. Like when it came to like the warg that it shows up in the one scene when what's his name, Arendir, was captured, like it looked worse than like the warg did in like the Lord in like the Two Towers from 20 years ago, which is weird that like for a show that costs that much, the special effects don't seem to be all that great. And I know it's like 8 hours or whatever, maybe 9 hours of content compared to, but they didn't even spend $1 billion on all 3 of the Lord of the Rings movies combined. So it's strange to me that it doesn't feel as epic as the Lord of the Rings, but also things look worse, yet they spent more money, like double the money on less content or on it. So I don't really understand that. The battles felt very underwhelming. I mean, there's hardly any, but like the one battle that actually takes place. Sorry, my cat was biting me. He's just off screen biting my arm.
The classic cat is biting me while streaming.
Yeah, just trying to like
your
do
cat,
something.
He liked Rings of Power. He was like, Dad, stop it.
Yeah, I think he just needs to be fat. I think he needs some food. I think that's what he's very subtly telling me.
I feel that.
The battles were underwhelming. Like the one only major battle we got, I guess, was sort of, there's the one that makes no sense in the village after.
Oh, you mean where the cavalry shows up when not knowing how to, they get off the boat and immediately charge, hundreds of miles inland? That one?
Well, there's that. Yeah. There's that battle, which doesn't make sense. Like for the numbers, it doesn't really make sense. And like, that's the biggest battle you have in the entire season. How is it that like every battle from like the others, even like the Hobbit, feel more epic than that when like you spent so much money? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then that whole battle anyway, I thought was poorly set up. There's the idea is that like one, there's a very inconsistent amount of survivors because it seems like there's a certain amount of them. They lose half of them that go with the orcs. And then you don't really ever see that half again. You see like a couple of them. And then, so presumably there wouldn't be that many left, but then they go down to the town, sneak around the orcs somehow. Then there's a bunch of them, enough of them to defend the town again, but then a bunch of them get killed defending the town, and there's basically only enough to fit in a tavern. But then after they get rescued, there's like hundreds of them again. Like, I don't understand. It feels like they lose track of like the most basic details of, you know, time, place, numbers, like, and like just the most basic stuff. It doesn't seem like they can follow because I guess they assume people will just think it's cool. And like Galadriel, for all that she's presented as being like a super like uber duper like soldier, like whatever, like the best at everything, yet like she never makes a good decision in the entire season. Like almost everything that goes wrong is her fault, and then like everything she tries to do is ridiculous. Like when she was trying to give them instructions on how to fight orcs in Numenor was like some of the worst fight choreography I've ever seen. Like I saw an interview with one of the directors, and he said, like, yeah, we shot that in like an afternoon. It went really quick. It's like, yeah, it shows. It shows that you shot it in like an afternoon. Like some movies would spend like a week or more, or like weeks potentially on like fights like that. You did it in an afternoon, and it's obvious you did it in an afternoon. And then at the end of that, her big like all that she was telling them to do was like she basically just told them to stab them, and that strength didn't matter. Like that is all she said out of all of that. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off track here, but like to respond to a couple things, like the music, like I know Nav said the music's good, and I think the music is solid, but the music doesn't fit with what's happening ever. Like the music in certain parts I think is solid, but it's doing all of the heavy lifting. Like the music is trying to convince you that what you're seeing is epic or good, but nothing that's happening on screen is epic or good. So the music is just doing all of this work to accomplish nothing.
That's a good point.
Like the music in the Lord of the Rings movies is great and epic, but epic things are also happening on screen. So it fits well. Whereas in the show, the music is epic, but they're just like walking through the woods, or like there's an epic score while she's riding her horse through the woods, chasing down whatever, but there's like nothing really happening. It's just nothing fits. And then the moments where they do try to like reference back to the movies, it's like, it's all just done worse. It's like, don't remind me of better movies. Like, why are you reminding me of things that are much better than what you're creating? And like how, like, I'm already comparing this to the Lord of the Rings films. You don't need to actively draw that comparison because it's not going to be in your favor. Like there's a scene where the annoying kid who dooms everyone,
Theo,
and
worst kid,
and Galadriel are like hiding from the.
Why is there always a kid? Why is there always a kid?
Why I don't know why they insist on having children in these like properties. It just doesn't. It rarely ever works out. Like Stranger Things is the exception, not the rule. They're hiding from like the orcs, and like it's clearly meant to evoke the like hobbits hiding from the ring wraiths in Fellowship. Yep. But like that is such a more intense and interesting and like literally like suspenseful scene that like actually like kind of raises the hairs on your neck when you watch it, where there's nothing in this because you know they're not going to get found there. There's like nothing happening. And then beyond that, it's like the Harfoots to me are like, they're the greatest evil in Middle Earth. Like it's them. It's not Sauron. Like they are the worst people in this universe. Like Halbrand seemed like a decent enough guy for most of the season. Like, what's his name? The Adar, like he just kind of wanted like a place for his children to live. Like he didn't seem all that bad. The Harfoots are the greatest evil in this season because like they consistently, if you fall behind, they just leave you to die. Like at the slightest inconvenience that you cause them, there's people suggesting that you should be left to die. And not only that, they should take your wheels off your wagon so you are absolutely left to die.
It's a controversial
and then
take.
After an entire season of that, at the end, the father of Nori gives a speech about how they always stick together. And I sat there baffled and just bewildered that this was happening. It's like, what are you talking about? You've never once supported each other at all through this entire thing. You've gone out of your way to show that these are the worst people that exist in Middle Earth. And like when Slim Shady like set all of their wagons on fire, I was so happy. I was thrilled. Like finally the great evil in Middle Earth is being defeated. Like I did not feel bad for them at all. Not even like not an ounce of me felt bad for them. They're the worst. And then like the fact that they do this sudden like 180 at the end that like, oh, we're going to go rescue Gandalf, whatever, after they've done nothing but want him gone and wanted that family dead throughout the entire season, like because he was there and because she inconvenienced them. Like I just couldn't buy any of it. And then you guys already mentioned the shift with Gandalf. Like, I'm glad that we went from brain dead Gandalf to like actual Gandalf, like being able to have full sentences
in 20 minutes. It happened in 20 minutes, by the way.
Absurd. Yeah, you forced us to sit through like 4 or 5 episodes or more of like this painful, like Harfoot teaching Gandalf how to speak because he's completely brain damaged or whatever, and like them consistently getting injured by intervening when he's using magic, and then blaming him for them getting involved in something that didn't have to do with them, and they always blamed him even though it was never his fault. Like, and like again, the worst people. So we suffer through all that, and then now it's like because he defeats Slim Shady, it's fine. Everything's fine now. And it's just normal Gandalf now. And then she's going to go with him to like the East on this journey for reasons. And it's like, what? She hasn't been helpful at all. She hasn't done anything that would prove that she would be able to be useful or anything. Like, I guess she was nice to you. Okay. Like she was the least bad of the worst people. Like, I don't like, why would you take her? Like the showdown between Gandalf and the like 3 evil women, whatever they were, was fine. I thought some of that looked kind of cool, but that was it. Like, and then the volcano thing was ridiculous. Like, to be honest, I like flushed most of it out of my mind. Like I'm going back to it all now and it's just upsetting me again. Like they only apparently have access to the like some of the like appendices or things like that from the novels. And it's obvious because like they're changing all of the history, but all of the changes they're making are bad. And like, this is what happens when you take people who have no experience. The people who are the showrunners on this show have never been showrunners on anything else before. This is their first job as showrunners on $1 billion property with like hundreds of millions, if not billions of fans globally. Yeah. Like that's the decision. Like, don't take anyone with any experience, with any like love for the property, who even like Tolkien, who have no experience as showrunners, and put them in charge of $1 billion property for something that like hundreds of millions, if not billions of people love. Like, yeah, great job, Amazon. Like, round of applause. And then we all knew Halbrand was Sauron. It's so obvious. And then they try to do this big reveal at the end, and they just make Sauron an incel. And it's like, well, it's Galadriel's fault that she rejects him. And it's like, what? What are we doing? Like, that's the reason Sauron gets like moody and goes to Mordor, is because Galadriel rejects him? Like, what? It was just like, well, maybe it wasn't obvious. Like, fair enough, Mark. But it was like, there was a lot of hints that he was Sauron, and that he had some weird connection to the Southlands that didn't really add up. And like his conversation with Adar kind of gave it away. And like, anyway, like none of the plan makes any sense with the sword. Like, so the whole plan was, so Sauron like created this sword, or Morgoth created this sword, that to use it, you would have to dig a huge tunnel from where the sword is put down through this entire land, like up into the volcano, to cause the volcano to erupt. But like all the sword does is like open a waterway. And like, this was the grand plan, like that was everything, like to blow up this volcano. Okay, sure. Like, what was the idea here? Did Adar take that, or was that Morgoth's plan? Or like he just wanted to flood the land? Like, what? I don't know. Anyway, Don't watch this show. It's just such a big waste of time.
All right, so
that should be the title of this podcast. Don't watch this show.
Don't watch this show. Amazon Prime presents The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power.
Don't support stuff like this. Like, seriously.
So here's the thing:
$1 billion at something and hope that people will like watch it. Watch Andor. That's a decent show.
Well, but what came before Andor, Mandalorian notwithstanding, has not been the best. I mean, we've talked about Obi-Wan. We've talked about what the crap else did we talk about? Something else, Star Wars related, that again was the same thing. I do want to go, and there was another show that we've brought up here on the Roundtable. I want to go to, I wasn't actually part of the Stranger Things talk that we had, the Stranger Things Postmortem we had a while ago. I was here, but I was playing Switch because I didn't want it spoiled. And what I want to say is it felt like a lot of the stuff. So Mark in the chat pointed out that he didn't know, he was slow about Sauron being Sauron. And they kind of screwed the pooch on that one a little bit because in the Silmarillion, Sauron was actually an elf. So I don't know how they're gonna retcon that. Maybe they're just not going to, and they're going to totally change the canon.
They're changing so much of the history. It doesn't. None of it lines up. Like Mithril isn't some magic thing that keeps the elves from disappearing in the lore. It's just a normal product that the dwarves regularly sell. Like, yeah, it's strong, but it's not like the salvation of the elves or something.
It's not. And Elrond being a half elf, that was an interesting thing. Elrond technically wasn't a half elf in the Silmarillion, but maybe they never really spelled it out, so he could be, I guess.
Hey, Amanda, your clothes are on the couch. I threw some on there.
Hey, Amanda, your clothes are on the couch. Just make sure that you get them.
I thought I was muted.
You are not.
we gotta go somewhere in a little bit. So.
Oh well, hey, you're a nice guy. You're a good husband for setting her clothes out for her. The thing I want to point out with Stranger Things before we kind of turn the ship a little bit is Stranger Things, for all of the cheese that it brought, it earned most of its character twists at the end. There was a couple that were a little weird. It actually earned them by good dialogue, by good plot lines, by, again, going back to what Templar was saying, the writing, the show running being at least halfway decent. Effects notwithstanding, you can kind of get by with some cheesy effects with a scary horror type thing. With this in something that's supposed to be grand and epic, and even Jen pointed out in the chat, like missing some of the leitmotifs of, there were a couple there, but missing the melodies that happen when certain characters show up on screen. All of that notwithstanding, the Gandalf thing, totally unearned. The Halbrand thing, totally unearned. The fact that Galadriel, and I caught this and I didn't realize it until just now at the time, she talks about Celeborn, her husband. Celeborn is actually alive in the movies. So I don't know if they've got 4 more seasons for $4 more billion to do something here.
Hopefully not.
Just to let you know, with Celeborn is Galadriel's husband. Their kid marries Elrond.
Right.
So.
Right, which is, I don't know how they're going to do all that. And also, Elrond is given off, again, unearned. It was weird because there was like a weird sort of like he's hitting on Galadriel thing happening. And I don't know if that was intentional or if that's going to be some weird incestual thing. Like, I don't know how all that's going to work. But Beggy Man.
Well, also in the lore, Galadriel is the one person who sees through, or one of the few people who can actually see through Sauron's disguise, like see through, because he's pretending to be an elf and he works with the elves on the rings. And she's one of the few who can actually see through his sort of like mask and his, like what he's putting on. You're allowed to say Stranger Things is good and Rings of Power is not. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's just the truth. What begging man? I don't understand your point.
He thought I was dancing around it.
But in the show, she's consistently deceived by him throughout the entire season.
Right.
Like she's clueless. Again, they try to set her up as this like epic person, and yet she makes nothing but mistakes for the entire season.
Clueless. Now there's a good movie. We should talk about Clueless.
I've never seen
it. Don't. It's fine.
I'd watch it. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, it's fine. So there's some weird incest thing happening at the end. We don't. This is not a clueless postmortem. This is a Rings of Power postmortem. Okay, before we kind of wrap this up, and any last thoughts, anything that you guys wanted to bring up with Rings of Power before we close the book on this forever until the next season when we are all watch it again and complain again?
It wasn't exclusive.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say it's not exclusively complaints from me. I mean, obviously, I had more issues the longer the season went on, but I will watch the next season whenever it does come out.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I will watch the next season as well and still be frustrated. It's just like one of those things. But it's Lord of the Rings. I like Rings. I'll watch it.
Have we reached a point in our lives that we're so cynical that we're hate watching things?
We're getting there.
I had really high hopes for this show. I had really high hopes, and I intentionally stayed away from spoilers and people who may have negative things to say about it intentionally because I wanted to enjoy it. I was not hate watching Lord of the Rings, and I won't theoretically hate watch the next season. I hope they can redeem it. I'm huge lover of it. So, but there's some stuff that was just, the more that I watch stuff like this, like Obi-Wan, the more I just think that the people who write these shows think that I'm an idiot. And I really struggle with feeling like that. Like I can't put the pieces of the puzzle together, or like I'm not going to ask questions about like very clear and apparent contradictions and things. I struggle with stuff like that. So, when I got to the end of this one, even despite trying to love it and trying to enjoy it every week and watching it with my wife, I still got the end of it. And I was like, come on, guys, poop in the pudding, right? There's poop in the pudding.
I've subscriptions. I was going to say I kind of agree. I feel like subscription services have somewhat dumbed down shows. Not all shows, but some. It seems like this is a show that shouldn't have been that way because they put so much money into it. But they're putting content out there so fast, kind of like a lot of Marvel stuff that's on Disney Plus, and like also Star Wars stuff. I just feel like a lot of it's kind of like they're just seeing what sticks and what doesn't.
Can we go back to the poop in the pudding real quick? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's a saying that I made up, talking about Legends of Runeterra and Riot putting out patch notes that would be all good except for one thing, and that is the poop in the pudding. It's like it makes it hard to enjoy the pudding because there's poop in it, and pudding's great, so there shouldn't be poop in it. Don't put poop in my pudding.
Huh.
That's a thing that I made up. It's really good. Everyone should use it. That's the poop in the pudding, guys. Just use it.
Exclamation point clip in the chat so we can clip that one. Yeah. Anything else, Templar, before we close this mother down?
I mean, I probably was hate watching it, I guess.
Yeah, my comment was directed at you.
I mean, I had read a lot of stuff about the production of it and read interviews with the creators and the writers, and like basically everything I saw about it had me deeply concerned about the direction it was going to take. It seemed like the people who were responsible for creating it were far more concerned with political messaging or updating Tolkien's work for like a modern day than they were with, just telling the story and like trying to do the best job they could to tell the story. And so I was fundamentally like, I wanted it to be good. I mean, I do love Lord of the Rings, but I was so negative about it going in that anyone who I talked to about it basically said like, so you're not a Lord of the Rings fan. So I guess everyone just like assumed that I didn't like Lord of the Rings because I wasn't excited for the show. Like, I don't know, like, I guess you could call that hate watching it. I mean, there were parts of it I didn't mind, and I really want it to be good because I love Lord of the Rings. But I mean, I guess I would just say you're not obligated to like something just because it's attached to a property you like. You know, why do we have this idea that everything will always be good from these like big studios? Like, I just don't trust that idea anymore. I mean, I think Marvel for a while had that reputation. You know, they had an occasional miss, but generally speaking, you know, almost every film they made was kind of a crowd pleaser. Critics liked it, entertaining, like whatever. But then now, like, it seems like they almost have more misses than hits, or like at least more of their films are far more divisive. And like, I think it's just a change in direction. And so like, even though they established it, like the only way we get better content, and like, I realize this turned into a little bit of like a pep talk, but like the only way we get better content is if people are more selective with what they choose to praise. Like, it doesn't mean you have to hate everything. You don't have to be like me, but like, be a little more selective in like what you like and like what you praise and what you don't. Like, set the bar a little bit higher is what I would say. Like, yeah, I probably had it too low for this show. And if I had no expectations at all going in, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But honestly, I don't think that much more. Like, the problems that I had with it were not really the problems I thought I would have going in. They ended up being other things. So, you know, have a higher bar is all I would say.
Again, going back to the comment in the chat from Beggy Man, storytelling is dead. Long live storytelling.
True. I think that's too cynical. Even from me, I think that's too cynical. There's lots of good stuff out there. You know, there's Stranger Things. There's like Peaky Blinders is a fantastic show. The Expanse was fantastic. The Expanse had fantastic storytelling. Again, that's just such a stuff I've watched in the last couple of months. So like, there's plenty of good storytelling out there, but just don't expect something from big studios like this to be. Arcane had fantastic storytelling. Like, don't, you know, just be selective. Like, everything isn't good or bad. It's just like, it can be somewhere in between, and like, some things will be good and some things won't be. So
that's not my internet. My internet says it's either hot or cold, good or bad, left or right. That's
everything. That's everything now, right? Like, everything's more polarized. Like, either you give something out of a 10 or a 10 out of 10, or it's a 2 out of 10. Like, if you had some issues with something, like you're a bigot or you hated it or whatever, even though it's like, you know, it was like a 7 out of 10 for you, but like, it can't be a 7 out of 10. It has to be 10. Like, if we don't have, things don't have to be that way.
All right. So give this a score then. Out of 10, give Rings of Power a score.
4.
Okay. Mark.
I'm probably at a 5. At a 5.
Nav.
5.
5. Okay. I'm going to give it a 5 as well. 5 with the 4. So that brings us up to a 4.75, or averages and math and me don't really get along. There's the official recommendation of the Roundtable / Lux Digital Church. Don't watch this, but then
I don't know if can we say, is it the official recommendation of the church?
Sure.
I don't know if that's something we should be.
Mark, can we do that?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
4.75 would not recommend Lord of the Rings of Power, Lux Digital Church.
You heard it here first, folks. I'll make the thumbnail. We can certified rotten. Coming up in, there it is. It's in the chat. So it's going to live in the internet archives forever. Hey, we're going to start to wrap up here. Stay tuned with us. Mark, what do we got coming up this weekend? We don't have a community night coming up because it's the 5th Saturday. What do we have coming up in November, actually?
So November starts a brand new collection of talks called Kingdom Culture. We're talking about generosity. We're going to be giving away copies of books each week during service. We have a board game night, a community night that'll either be playing Fortnite or maybe watching a movie together, because we haven't watched a movie in months together. So maybe we'll watch a movie together. That'll be coming up not this Saturday, next Saturday. That stuff's coming. Yeah, lots of great stuff is coming up. And then really excited beyond that for our Christmas series. I don't think we've verbalized what it is yet, but I'm going to right now. We have a Christmas series coming up called a Tabletop Christmas, in which we're going to be giving away board games each week of our Tabletop Christmas series in December. And so we're designing that right now. We're really excited for a Tabletop Christmas. So that's going to be freaking dope.
Yeah.
Pumped for that.
It's going to be awesome. And if you are even watching this via VOD or on YouTube or listening on podcast, jump into our Discord. Links will be in the doodly-doo below or in the show notes. You can come join us. Nav, thanks for joining us. Go fix your internet. Actually, just go yell at the AT&T guy. It was so perfect. You froze right as you were raising your thumb like that. You're back now, but it froze like it framed out there for a second. Templar, enjoy your Halloween. Mark, man, enjoy sleeping in your own bed and resting your back.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone else out there in Chatland, on Twitch, and everywhere else, we love you. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining the Roundtable. Don't go watch Rings of Power. We love you. Goodbye.